Hello, wine community. I'm Aaron with the Wine Cooperative here with Hayden. We're going to
Hey,
do a little white wine blinding today. Neither of us know what these two wines are. We're going to try to run through these kind of using a CMS style. You might notice me taking little notes, and I'm going to start a timer for Hayden here, and we'll kind of go over some things. But Hayden, you had a couple things to say too, so take it over.
yeah, absolutely. On that note, just taking a look at a couple of the videos that we've already shot. You may see me looking down from time to time. That's just because in front of me, I'm practicing for my next quartermaster sommeliers exam. So I have the tasting grid here. And I'm just trying to get more repetitions in following it directly. So when it comes time, I am ready to rock. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So perfect.
How you feeling, Hayden? You ready to do it?
I'm ready to rock it out today. I feel good. Last white wine, I'm still bitter about. I knew it should have been Gewürztraminer based on lack of acid, and I called Chenin. I don't know why, but I'm ready for some redemption here for sure.
I think I'm 0 for 0, so so anything's
Hey,
better from what I've got. But that's why we're here to learn and have some fun. So
that's
you
true.
get
That's
into
true.
it when you go, and I will start the timer, and we'll get this going.
All right, excellent. Well, cheers to that.
All right, go for it.
Okay, so wine one is a clear white wine with a pale yellow concentration. Slight secondary colors of maybe a little bit of silver, um, slight water band. Staining is medium, or excuse me, not staining. Tearing is medium. No staining. No evidence or gas or sediment on the nose. The wine is clean. Moderate plus intensity. I do think based on color and just the freshness of the wine that it is a youthful wine. On the nose, the fruit I'm getting is a lot of kind of like lime skin, lime zest, almost like a slightly candied lime. Maybe a little bit of lemon in there, kind of like that lemon pith. All very fresh, rather tart. Um, maybe a little bit of like a underripe pineapple, underripe mango. Not a ton of not a very fruit dominated wine though. What I'm really getting into is, there's like a big petrol rubber on the nose for sure. Like a good almost like slate, like wet slate minerality. Maybe a little bit of like fresh turned potting soil. Almost like a very subtle like ginger on the nose as well. Wood, I don't think that this wood sees any new oak. I'm not getting that cinnamon, clove, baking spice, or any of those different notes. So moving on to the palate. Okay. The wine is dry, no tannin, acid profile screaming. The second it hits your tongue, it's just bam, super, super high acid profile. The alcohol on this, I think it's actually on the lower side. I'm going to call it medium minus. Texture is medium. It's actually a rounder texture, but that acid just cuts through right away and just gives you a ton of. My mouth is just watering right now. That being said, kind of like that, I do think the wine is in balance because you get that good acid, but you have like those different earthy qualities as well that kind of just balance each other out with like a medium weight wine. It's perfect. Confirming on the palate, a lot of those citrus fruits, right? So actually everything in this wine I think is rather underripe. And I think that, we're talking about, you know, if you can underripe a lime or underripe a lemon, but just so acidic. So definitely lime skin, lemon skin. It's not really breaking into that grapefruit territory. Uh, Again, maybe like a really underripe pineapple. And they're underripe to just barely fresh on the palate. Um, Florality, maybe like some good like white flower, yellow flower, baby's breath. Again, a little bit of like fresh potting soil. I'm getting a little bit more white mushroom on the palate as well. Definitely some whetstone minerality. I do not think that this wine has wood on it. So moving into initial conclusion, possible grape varieties, I think are Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Gruner Veltliner. Possible countries are Germany, France, Austria. I do think that this is a young wine. Trying to think here of where I want to end up going with this wine. So here's what I'm thinking in my mind. So I think that this is Riesling. I don't think that there is enough body to be Alsatian, but it's not super fruit dominated, which would make me think Old World. But because of the super high acid profile, how dry the wine is, and where I'm thinking that this could potentially be higher elevation, I'm thinking that I'm actually going to call this a New World wine from a cool climate. I'm going to call this from Australia. I'm going to say this is 2 years old, Riesling, from Eden Valley. And I'm going to call 2018.
Beautiful. All right, just under 6 minutes here, Hayden, with everything. Love your calls. Love your breakdown of the wine. Just kind of a quick review of kind of what we went over, just to break down the timing. It's just really for like that exam setting is what kind of Hayden's training for. So I think it's always nice to have an idea of what you're spending time on. So we did 30 seconds on the visual, then moved into the nose, and from the nose went into the palate at 2 minutes or so. And then right into your initial around 5 minutes, and started doing your initial and called the wine at 6 minutes. So I think it's just important always to look at that timing breakdown, just so you kind of have an idea. I think that's a great time to look at something, especially in those exam settings. But I think what Hayden did really wonderful here too is you took the time to really call out everything, examine what you're thinking about, think about what you're calling at the same time, because I know often I'll call things but not actually process it myself. So that's why it's actually helpful for me to write these notes of him tasting, so that I kind of have a moment to think about what's really going on here, and kind of if I agree or disagree with what he's calling. So points that I really loved. I loved the fruit calls. I loved the tart pineapple, the lime zest, lemon pith, no oak, ginger, slate, petrol. I definitely got all those things on the nose and on the palate. I love the structure call, dry, high acid, medium minus alcohol. So yeah, texture, little bit of floral characteristic to this. I think that your possibles were great with the Riesling, Sauvignon Blanc, Gruner. And then I loved how you went in, you're kind of thinking Old World, but then circled it back and went with a cooler climate within Australia, Eden Valley, which I think is a fantastic call. Honestly, that's pretty much where I was going. I could see maybe Alsatian dry Riesling, but I agree. I think high acid, some mineral, definitely like kind of a petrol rubber thing going on here a little bit, not in an offensive way, in kind of a cool way. So yeah, let's see what we got.
Yeah, I think too, because I was thinking Alsatian potentially too, but it just doesn't have like that richness, that like velvety. I think it would just be a little bit more weightier if it was from Alsace. It just doesn't. It just, the fruit is there. It's just, I think from this specific location. It's dominated by kind of that petrol. But yeah, I couldn't get away from that. So interested to see what it is.
Well, sir, you have done a nice job here. So we indeed have Edna Valley Dry Riesling from the Pusey Vale, and this is a 2019. So right off the press here. But yeah, I think this is kind of a classic. If you're looking for and they make a big boy for this too, kind of a bump up. 12% alcohol on this. But this is kind of a classic producer if you're looking for a nice, reasonably priced dry Riesling from Australia. And I think this wine is delicious and a really beautiful expression. And I think that's something too that's important to think about is just trying to find sound expressions, because Hayden and I love a good value and we love to find cool wines. But it's also too, if you're trying to go into more of an exam setting, and I mean, we love everything, or I do at least, and I know Hayden does as well. But it's definitely nice to have something that you think is a sound expression, because as Hayden kind of brushed on earlier, if you're going into a CMS Quartermaster Sommelier exam, or if you're going into that WSET exam, then I think it's nice to know kind of what's possible. And usually they're looking for the most sound expression of a region and characteristics of kind of why that wine is a sound expression from those areas. And ultimately too, I mean, I think that's what a lot of these producers are looking to do, is to show an expression of place. I mean, that's doesn't matter the price, right? It's just more of what the wine is kind of telling you, and people are crafting something that is an expression of place and kind of their wine production styles. But
yeah, absolutely. And I think I think something that's taken me a while to do, that we've talked about a lot, is don't make the wine something it's not, right? I mean, I think for me, even 6 months ago, this could have really gotten me tripped up on being a old world wine, so that I'm trying to place old world. But just all of those things that you talked about, like that 12% alcohol, a little bit more of a medium body instead of a full body, that petrol that you get. I'm pretty excited. I think it's a great wine. And again, when I'm blind tasting, I'm trying to pick up on what are like the dominant characteristics in this wine that are going to lead me to a certain place. So I'm calling high acid a lot. It doesn't mean it tastes like battery acid, right? It just means that it's a predominant quality in the wine. But then, where my mind goes then is if I'm pairing this with food, acid always pairs well with inversely with salt, right? So, with this, I'm thinking almost something like, man, I want like this wine is so fresh and vibrant. I kind of want something that's like I mean, this is the fanciest of fancy pairings, but I want like mozzarella sticks that are like super salty and deep fried and crunchy, and to kind of contrast this. So
get it. Hot summer day on the patio, some mozzarella sticks. Hayden and I, family, with some dry Riesling, Edna Valley.
That's right.
Sounds great.
That's
I
right.
think what's cool too is in thinking about this in comparison to, we just recently tasted an Alsatian dry Riesling, and just kind of looking back and thinking about those two wines. One thing that I was definitely focused on this was the aromatics. This is fairly aromatic, and I think Hayden touched upon that. There was a lot going on. But then the one thing that I think does differ between those two wines, because I think structurally they were very similar, but I think on the nose, something that was very distinctively different to some extent. I feel like that petrol kind of rubbery note is more present with this, and it's not. And when I say that, I don't think of it as in a bad way at all. I think it's kind of an interesting, cool note. But I do think that to some extent, and some might beg to differ with me, but that Australian dry Riesling sometimes can have a little more of that characteristic, and can be a little more prevalent than maybe like an Alsatian dry Riesling, where that might be a little more mass, and you might have a little more of that like kind of ripe ripe fruit characteristic. And even thinking about the kind of, because we called pineapple on both those wines. I think when I was blinding the Alsatian, I called pineapple. And but I think too, even just the character of that fruit, Hayden called it kind of a tart pineapple, and I think I had more just like a ripe, fresh pineapple with that, if I recall correctly. But So just
Yeah.
thinking about some of those subtle nuances of why something is what it is and isn't something else. Because I can tell you, for one, I am sometimes very disappointed with my own blinding ability, and very pleased with Hayden's. So nice work today, crushing it
Yeah.
again, sir.
Thank you so much. Yeah, cheers to that. My glass is empty. But I think one last thing when we're talking about structure too, something that really, I've drank in some Alsatian Riesling, but I haven't maybe drank it as much blind tasting. So I think something, when we talk about like the body of the wine, something that I'm definitely picking up in an Alsatian Riesling that I'm not picking up here is that, I'm really looking at a much higher alcohol content in relation to the wine, which adds just a little bit more viscosity to the wine, a little bit more heat. So just like you said, it's funny how much that wine is still in my mind, that Alsatian Riesling, because there's a good chance I could have called this Alsace, but the reason I didn't is because we had that wine not too long ago, and I feel like when I got burnt on that wine, I really learned my lesson of wow, this just has more alcohol on it than I think I'm used to tasting with Alsatian Riesling when I tasted it. So yeah, really cool wine to have, and super glad that it came on the heels of something that we tasted. I don't know, what was that, 6 weeks ago or something? Right in that range.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool, man.
Great
Well,
work,
great
Hayden.
wine.
Nicely done. I'm glad that you're a quicker learner than I am.
Stop.
Get it in here. Get it in here. Well, my friend,